And Jewish culture will have to define a particular identity for itself that is not based on nationalism, and apparently not on religion either. On what then will our future particular identity focus? I hope that the focus will be on the same aspiration towards progress, depth, and universal justice, on the same tikkun olam, world reform, which has always been the vision of many of our ancestors. I'd like to be more concrete now for a few minutes and to talk a little bit about the play Pangs of a Messiah as an example of the kind of theater that I was talking about earlier. The play Pangs of the Messiah, which is produced by the Mandel Jewish Community Center and will be presented at the Cleveland Playhouse in June, is an example for the kind of theater I've described above. The play takes place in 2012, when a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinian Authority is about to be signed in Washington. It focuses on the family of the leader of the Jewish settlements in the West Bank. This family is going to be evacuated after the signing of the agreement. Throughout the plot, we see the struggle of the different family members to prevent the completion of the peace process. Some use democratic tools to create public pressure on the prime minister, but some decide to use all means possible, including terrifying violence. The play is written in an attempt to understand the religious convictions of the settlers which enabled them to carry out such monstrous violent actions. It is written as a warning to the state of Israel that such dangerous elements exist in it. And in one day, they are about to endanger the existence of the whole state. It is written as a warning to the majority of the settlers that they must take responsibility and control this small, extreme fundamentalist element in them before it brings about a catastrophe upon all of us. This small, extreme element has already brought upon us a terrible calamity when in 1995, one of its members assassinated Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and brought an end to the peace process that Rabin had begun in 1993. The play deals with an Israeli local and particular issue, but it also deals with a much wider global issue, the rise of fundamentalism in many parts of the world and the dangers arising from this fundamentalism. The play calls for careful and clear dialogue with fundamentalist elements in our society, to include them, and I repeat, to include them in the public discourse, and by doing it, challenging them with alternatives. It's highly important for me that this play is presented in the US, exposing hidden layers in the Israeli society. I believe that this presentation is even more crucial, especially for American Jewish community, who must be aware of fundamentalism in Israel and collaborate with Israeli liberal forces in reducing the danger that these elements will gradually, that these elements will gradually change the face of the state of Israel, which we have dreamed about for so many generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to a special program with Israeli playwright Motti Lerner. We will return to our speaker in a minute for our traditional City Club questions. We encourage you to formulate your questions now while we break for a few minutes. We welcome all of you here, especially those who are guests, and hope you will join the City Club and become active in our ongoing civic dialogue. This Friday, May 22nd at noon, our regular Friday forum will feature Leslie Schweitzer, Senior Trade Advisor for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And Wednesday, 1 week from today, the City Club welcomes the Honorable Sherrod Brown, Senator from Ohio, for a forum on health care. For more information about our programs, to make reservations, or to order a tape of today's program, please call the City Club at 1-888-223-6786 or 216-621-0082, or visit our website, cityclub.org. Now we would like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphone today is Public Relations and Programs Manager, Carrie Miller. First question, please.
I am overwhelmed at the agenda you've laid out. And I wonder how difficult it must be for you then as a playwright to choose the agenda and the points. I really, and I was hoping in coming here to get some kind of hope. And I'm wondering, taking your play and the dilemma that you've posed, is there something that we can be hopeful about in terms of the resolution of this extreme element within Israel versus Israel and the conflict, the tension? Are you optimistic as a playwright? Because as I listen, I am overwhelmed.
Thank you very much. I'm very optimistic. Writing a play is a very optimistic commitment. It's very difficult. You know, it takes about 2 years to write a play, and it's really hard work. And if there was not strong motivation, was not strong optimism, the play wouldn't have been written. And this play, Pangs of the Messiah, is also written from an optimistic perception that a change is possible. That if we present the dilemma deeply, honestly, without suppressing it, then the public discourse will change and will inevitably create a political change. Our only way as theater people to change the development in the political area is by changing the public discourse. If I introduce into the public discourse the idea that fundamentalism is dangerous, and people respond to that danger and explore the danger, the discourse that will evolve can change the political decisions. I'm not saying that a play can change the political reality immediately. I think that since I've started writing plays, the situation in Israel has only deteriorated. It didn't make any progress. But I still believe that I contribute, or plays like mine contribute to the public discourse in a positive way, because they allow the discussion of new ideas all the time. Yes, please.
Thank you. As in reading the synopsis of your play, doesn't your theme indicate that before you sign in 2012, the wall must come down and the West Bank settlements must be broken down before you sign?
I think that the play deals with a particular peace plan, which I think most of us are familiar with, and this is the peace plan that was proposed by President Clinton in 2000. He suggested the proposal in June 2000 in Camp David, and later it was developed in the undiscussed conference in Taba in, I think it was February of 2001, or maybe January 2001. And that includes several major elements that I assume will be part of Obama's plan, and it will inevitably be the basis for any peace agreement. One is that the borders of Israel will be the 1967 borders, allowing some territorial exchanges that will allow 80% of the settlers to remain in their settlements. 80% will remain in the settlements, only 20% will be evacuated. Jerusalem will be partitioned in a way that every neighborhood that is Muslim will be under Palestinian authority, and every neighborhood which is Jewish will be under Israeli sovereignty. And the issue of the Palestinian refugees, which is a huge problem, will be solved in a way, as President Clinton suggested, that Israel will accept moral responsibility for the creation of the Palestinian refugee problem, and would allow 43,000 Palestinians to return to Israel as a gesture on humanitarian basis. 43,000, it's not a huge number, Israel can live with it.